Okay, greetings class. This is It105. We'll be doing assignment 2, which is on page 109 in your textbook. The first thing it wants us to do is to start publisher. So we'll go ahead and start publisher. It wants us to open a blank 8 by 5 by 11, 8.5 by 11. So we're just going to click on it. That opens it. Then it wants us to save the file. Save, right? We're just going to pick where we want to save it. I'm going to save it to my desktop. And I'm going to save the publication PBP B02 and then underscore, and I want you to put your name here. Okay, that helps me when I download it to find your file, right? First name, last name, PBP02 and your name. So that was step 1, pretty easy. Step 2 wants us to insert building blocks header or a heading of our choice, and then type some items in that. If you turn to page 110, you'll actually see what the publication is supposed to look like. It gives an example. So we're going to go ahead and do our recording and pick those items to make it look very similar. Okay, and you could do the same or you can do differently. So we need to do some building blocks. So we're going to do insert. And here you see building blocks, right? Insert building blocks. We hit that to expand the library. We're going to do a page part. And we're looking here for the straight heading. So we're going to also go to all headings. And just do a single click and we're going to do straight. And that's the similar one, straight edge. That's similar to the one that we have in our example on page 110. We'll go ahead and insert that, get it resized to where it needs to be. I'm going to leave some space because later on we're going to have to insert a 1-inch margin on the header. It wants us to put happening. It wants us to put the business name of Pet Rescue. CUE. Then it wants us to put for the date autumn. I'm going to highlight that. I'm just going to undo that. Didn't want to drag that. There we go. Okay, so I think that incorporates step 2 there, right? We've done Pet Rescue as the business name, Happenings as the newsletter, and Autumn as the date. I'm just going to go ahead and save it so that we don't lose our work during the time frame. Okay, next, step 3. It wants us to insert a building block border at the bottom. Okay, so again, we're going to go to these building blocks, border. And this one we are going to use the ... one. So I'm thinking that's close to the diamond, or actually the circles. So the close or the fair. So either one of these is okay. We're going to go ahead and do the far. Excuse me, far. And it wants us to take it down to the bottom of the page. And it wants us to extend it to the left and right border. So all we need to simply do is just take it and drag it to the left and right. Probably a little bit too big, but that's okay. We can shrink it up. I'm going to go ahead and save it. That from the left margin to the right margin. Our next step is to send all items on the page to the master page. What we're going to do here is we're going to click on the page design. You see a master page over here. I'm going to click in our publication and hold Control A. Control A selects everything on there, right? You could see that the dot and the square, and there's some items around it to show it is selected. We're going to click on the master page. We're going to click Send to Master Page. It asks us that, or it tells us our selection was moved to master page A. To edit, press Control M. We might use that later on. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to save it again. All right, and that was our step 4. Okay, step 5 is a bit confusing. What it wants us to do is it wants us to edit the part of the master page. So it wants us to click on the heading, but first we need to get to our master page to edit it. We just talked about Control M, so that I just hit Control M. It allows me to edit that master page, and it wants us to select the heading. So we select the heading, and then it wants us to go to Format, and it wants us to ungroup all items in the heading. So we've clicked Drawing Tools Format. We're going to ungroup them. They are now ungrouped, meaning before, if I moved it, they moved all together. Since I've ungrouped it, I can move them separately now. And I believe it wants us to now deselect all those items, right? So now those are no longer selected. And then it wants us to select the volume and the autumn button. Okay, so I just held down the control button to select them both. So I clicked here, I held the control button down, and then I clicked here. Now I've clicked on both of those. And it wants us to send autumn and volume 1 text boxes to the foreground so that we can easily change them. With those two items selected, we're going to move to page design, right? We were in drawing tools format, we're in page design. We're going to ensure that those are still selected. We're going to go over here to master page and we're going to send that to foreground. And those should disappear, right? And it says your selection was moved to page 1. To edit, Control M, right? So we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now it wants us to close the master page. So we can click on up here, master page, and click close, right? And then we see that come back because we took it away from the master page. We put it on page 1. Now we're back on page 1. We're on step 5. We're going to place a horizontal ruler guide at 3 inches and a vertical ruler guide at 2 inches. And then it says, or a position that doesn't affect or intersect your heading. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to page design, all right, which we're on. We're going to go to guides. If you're not on page design, if you are on something else, you just simply click on the tab. You're going to click on guides. We're going to add a horizontal ruler guide, and our horizontal ruler guide should be at 3 inches, right? So we're going to go ahead and here it is here. Here's where it was added. We're just going to move that up, right? And we're going to put that a little bit lower, right? We're going to put it at about 3.5 inches. And that's okay. We don't want to intersect our heading. And I've done that intentionally. When I add a margin up top, I don't want that to all get distorted. The next guide it wants us to add is, I believe, a vertical ruler guide at 2 inches. So we're going to add a vertical ruler guide. It's added here. And we just click and drag it to 2 inches. Okay. And then I think it wants us to put in some text boxes and add some texts. You can see here that horizontal guide is still going to get interfered with. So I'm going to move it down a little bit more to about 4.5 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to insert. I'm going to insert a text box. I'm going to put that text box, and I just click and drag. I'm going to put it right here. Okay, move it up just a little bit so it doesn't go over. I'm going to type in here. I'm going to make this font a little bit bigger. I'm going to type in title text. I think that's what it wants us to add, right? And then we're going to add another text box. We're going to put that right here. I'm just going to put sample text. We can make that bigger too. That's a little bit too small to see. Probably I'll see the misspelling once I make it a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so sample. right? We could change this, right, with some different styles if we want, right? That's up to you, and I think later on it tells us that we could do different things with that. Um, so that's that. We're gonna go ahead and move this down a little bit. We can make it bigger. However you want to do that is fine with me. You would just need to just highlight the text, and you could change it here. You could change the font type and the size, and that's fine. That's completely up to you. Step 7 here is to add a new master page, and then change the top margin to 1 inch, leaving the other margins to their default. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add a new master page. To do that, I'm just going to quickly go to View. I click on Master Page. It shows me my master page. I'm going to right click and add a master page. I'm going to name that master page B. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click OK. We've added that master page. I'm going to close that master page. Right. If I wanted to go back, I hit Control M. I can click on that master page, and I think it wants us to change our margins. So we click on Page Design. We go to Margins. We're going to do some custom margins, and we are going to make the top 1 inch, and all the rest is the default. So that is set for the master page B. I'm going to click OK. It also, on step 7, wants us to add grid guides to apply to columns. So I'm still in that master page edit, Control M, right? I'm on master page B selected, not A, B. I'm going to add some, right, page design. I'm going to add, it said two grid columns, simply right here. And there's those 2 grid columns. And then our step 8 wants us to insert a header of our choice at the top of the page and the page number centered in the footer area. So we're going to go ahead and insert. We're going to insert a header of our choice, right? So I'm just going to type in pet rescue letter. I'm going to go ahead and center that. So I just highlight it. I just highlight that font. I click that center button. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. And that's up to you again. And then I believe it wants us to put a footer with the page, right? At the top of the page and the page number centered in the footer area. So we're going to insert a footer, and we want a page number at the bottom center, right? So I just inserted a footer and then did a page at the bottom center. We're going to go ahead and save that. There's a couple steps for step 9 here, so we'll just take it in order. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and close our master view. So I clicked on master page, I click on close. Okay, and then it wants us to insert another page. So I simply right click here. I'm going to insert a blank page. It applied by default master A, right? But I want master B. So I right click on my page and I'm inserting or changing it to master B, right? That's our second one. It wants us to draw a text box from the full width of the page. So we're going to go, oops, that was not good enough. So we're going to draw the text box from the full width of the page, from the top margin to the vertical of 6, and then we're going to go down with that. So it takes up the full page. It wants us to apply 2 columns in that. It wants us to make sure that the spacing is okay between those columns. Okay, and then it wants us to create a link of this text to the first page. So we simply click here. We click on the first page, and we're going to create a link right here. We're going to make part 2 of the video. Thanks.